Good evening. You're watching the late news on HKIBC. I'm Isabel Wong. Here are tonight's top stories. Fugitive who escaped from Queen Mary Hospital arrested tonight along with 2 accomplices. Chinese and US leaders exchange barbs at APEC summit. Thousands turn up for annual Pride parade in Causeway Bay. A verbal spat between Chinese and US leaders has caught the headlines at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Papua New Guinea today. President Xi Jinping warned against rising protectionism, while US Vice President Mike Pence said the US will not back down from the US-China trade dispute unless Beijing bows to US demands. President Xi Jinping and US Vice President Mike Pence traded barbs in their speeches at a summit of world leaders today. At the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Papua New Guinea, Xi told his audience that protectionism is slowing global growth as they outlined Beijing's commitment to open up China's markets.
人类又一次站在十字路口上。
The Belt and Road Initiative is an open platform for cooperation. It is guided by the principles of the consultation and cooperation for a share of the benefit, Xi said. The president also said the Belt and Road Initiative is not an exclusive club that is closed to non-members, nor it is a trap as some skeptics have labeled it. In a bluntly worded speech, Pence declared that the US would not back down from the ongoing trade disputes so long as China did not make concessions.
The United States, though, will not change course until China changes its ways.
The US Vice President also took direct aim at Xi's flagship Belt and Road program, cautioning countries should not accept debt which might compromise their sovereignty.
Know that the United States offers a better option. We don't drown our partners in a sea of debt. We don't coerce or compromise your independence. The United States deals openly and fairly. We do not offer a constricting belt or a one-way road. When you partner with us, we partner with you, and we all prosper.
Pence also warned Washington was ready to impose more tariffs on Chinese imports on top of levies already imposed on $250 billion worth of Chinese goods. Pence's statement contrasted with remarks made by US President Donald Trump yesterday. In a softening stance, Trump said he may not impose more tariffs after China allegedly offered the US a list of concessions it was willing to take to ease tensions. Those remarks gave a modest lift to stocks on Friday, but a stark warning from Pence today will likely be unwelcome news to financial markets as investors had hoped for a thaw in the US-China trade conflicts. Back in Hong Kong, and this just came in, police have found and arrested the man who escaped from custody at Queen Mary Hospital yesterday. The 34-year-old fugitive was taken away tonight from a hotel in Wan Chai, where he was held up along with one of his accomplices. 2 officers were slightly injured during a violent struggle. A second accomplice was arrested at the airport last night whilst trying to flee Hong Kong. Senior Inspector from the Police Western District Crime Squad, Chang Hin Chiu, revealed they locked down the whereabouts of the gang using tip-offs from the public, as well as nearby surveillance footage. He said the suspect hopped onto a taxi after leaving the hospital yesterday before taking refuge inside a hotel room his accomplices reserved. It's believed the trio are friends, but police would not go into details. Earlier today, Police Chief Stephen Low said the force will see if any officer had breached guidelines which might have aided the fugitive's escape. Riley Chan reports.
Police Commissioner Stephen Low had a whole plate of issues to tackle when he met the press at a passing-out parade this morning. Yesterday, a 34-year-old suspect escaped from Queen Mary Hospital through the bathroom ceiling. It is understood that the suspect was not handcuffed or shackled at the time. While police continued a citywide manhunt today, Low said he would investigate if any police officer had failed to adhere to guidelines regarding the handling of suspects in custody.
We have an established procedure and guidelines in how to escort a prisoner to attend hospital. At the moment, we are doing our inquiries, and if any officer is found to contravene any guidelines or established procedure, we will take follow-up actions.
Low also responded to media reports that border patrol guards from Shenzhen had trespassed into Hong Kong territory, even occupying a large piece of land for years. Footage showed the guards had repeatedly crossed the border through a private bridge, which seemed to be recently built. When confronted for an explanation on why the issue could evade attention by police on border patrol, Low said officers only patrol within the border fence erected to deter illegal immigrants. However, the police chief admitted certain areas under Hong Kong jurisdiction fall outside the fence, and he has pledged to review its patrol strategy. On a separate issue, Low also confirmed a female constable had the right to draw out her pistol and fire at a man wielding a utility knife during rush hour inside an MTR station. He applauded the reasonable and correct judgment of the officer who subdued the attacker with a shot to his abdomen. It was never easy to make a split-second decision in such a situation, Low argued, adding tragedy could have otherwise followed. He cited the example of Jackie Chu, the constable who was stabbed in the neck whilst on patrol in Changsha 1 in 2005. Chu was left paralyzed in a near-vegetative state. Riley Chen, HKIBC.
Thousands of people took to the streets for the annual Pride Parade calling for an end to sexual orientation discrimination. Attendees this year included the world's first openly gay prince, Manvendra Singh Gohil. UP Nung reports.
The symbolic rainbow flag led the way out of Victoria Park. The annual Hong Kong Pride Parade, organized by 5 concerned groups, including Rainbow of Hong Kong, took off at 3 p.m. in Causeway Bay. Equal Opportunities Commission Chairman Alfred Chan and several pro-democracy lawmakers also attended the event. Braving drizzles, thousands of marchers decked out in colorful outfits to celebrate the parade's 10th anniversary in the city. But the march was more than just a celebration. Chanting call for the law equality for all, activists continued their years-long call for legislation against the discrimination of sexual orientation. Some marchers also said they were not happy with an apparent censorship of children's book content regarding the topic.
As a lesbian mother, my wife and I just want to read books to our 2 sons about who their family is. And so they see in books, in art, in life, that rainbow families are all around the world, in Hong Kong, and everywhere that you would find LGBTIQ people.
Among the marchers was Indian Prince Manvendra Singh Gohil, who publicly came out over a decade ago. He noted the differences between his home country and Hong Kong in terms of the society's attitude towards sexual minorities.
It's quite similar, but except that there are certain discriminations which I have kind of heard about, and especially one of the things which I was hearing about is this ban of these books from the library.
The crowd marched from Causeway Bay to Edinburgh Place in Central. For the second year, Chief Executive Carrie Lam and Constitutional and Mainland Affairs Secretary Patrick Nip declined an invitation to attend the parade. UPNM, HKIBC.
The Urban Renewal Authority said it was too early to determine how much discount it will offer for a batch of 450 flats catering to the middle class. Managing Director Y Chi Sing reassured buyers that a 5-year ban on resale will not be extended so that financially capable homeowners can move up the housing ladder. Riley Chan reports.
A new project by the Urban Renewal Authority in To Kwa Wan is touted as a solution for middle-class Hong Kongers who do not qualify for public housing but also cannot afford private homes. Under the Starter Home Scheme, 450 flats will be sold at discounts of 28 to 38% to the market value, although prices have yet been set. URA Managing Director Y Chi Sing said it was too early to predict how much potential buyers would be able to save.
I do not have the expertise to predict the movement of the property market. It will going to adjust downward. Our intention is that we will fix the price as close to the market as possible. So our current intention is that in early December we'll appoint an independent surveyor to assess the market price, and then we'll apply the account on this market price.
Buyers will be able to apply for units early next year, and once the purchase is made, they cannot resell their flats within the first 5 years.
If you impose a longer restriction on the resale period, it may not assist this high-income group of people. So as far as this project is concerned, I think it is a good balance to have a 5-year restriction.
The URA chief also publicly backed the government's plan to reclaim 1,700 hectares of land off the northeastern coast of Lantau. But he would not speculate on the project's cost, saying no detailed studies had been carried out yet. He urged the Legislative Council to greenlight funding requests for preliminary studies so that the government could get on with the planning work. Riley Chen, HKIBC.
Senior government counsel and prosecutor Vincent Wong plunged to his death from his Tai Kok Tsui home this morning. A suicide note was found inside his flat, and police believed no foul play was involved. Yu Pin reports.
Officers were called to the Hampton Place residential development in Tai Kok Tsui at around 10 a.m. after a security guard spotted a man lying unconsciously on the podium. Paramedics later certified the man dead at the scene. Police believed the man jumped to his death from his 37th floor unit as a suicide note was found inside his flat. The man was later confirmed to be Vincent Wong, a 49-year-old senior public prosecutor from the Department of Justice. Wong had been due to appear in court on Wednesday, but as a defendant to hear his indecent assault charges. He was accused of molesting 3 women at Queensway government offices in Admiralty on 4 separate occasions between 2014 and 2018. Sources said Wong wrote in the suicide note that he had been suffering from depression for years. Wong apologized to his friends and family for involving them in the legal battle, sources added. In a statement, the Department of Justice said it would provide all the necessary assistance to his family. Yu Pin, HKIBC.
And still to come after the break. CIA probe concludes Saudi Crown Prince had ordered the assassination of dissident journalist. And Jimmy Butler makes a home debut for the Sixers. Welcome back. The CIA has concluded that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the assassination of journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the kingdom's consulate in Istanbul last month, according to U.S. media reports. Sarah Asaf reports.
It has been over a month since a team of Saudi agents flew to Istanbul and allegedly killed journalist Jamal Khashoggi inside the country's consulate. The kingdom has all along emphasized its crown prince and de facto leader, Mohammed bin Salman, had absolutely nothing to do with the murder. But today, the CIA concluded that the order came from the highest ranks of the Saudi government, according to a report by the Washington Post. After analyzing a myriad of phone calls, audio recordings, and information gathered from foreign governments, U.S. intelligence officials concluded that bin Salman was personally involved in Khashoggi's murder. That included a phone call between the prince's brother Khalid bin Salman, the Saudi ambassador to the United States, and the slain journalist who wrote for the Washington Post. Khalid allegedly told Khashoggi to go to the kingdom's consulate to retrieve documents and gave the assurance that it would be safe for him to enter the compound. The newspaper specified that it was not clear whether Khalid knew Khashoggi would be killed, but he gave the instruction on his brother's orders. Khalid has since denied the accusations. In a tweet, he said, "I never talked to him by phone, and I certainly never suggested he go to Turkey for any reason." A CIA spokesman declined to comment on the allegations, but U.S. officials were believed to stand by the CIA's assessment, according to the Post. A Saudi embassy spokeswoman said in a statement that the claims in this purported assessment are false. The journalist's murder has put business ties between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia in the spotlight, as well as the close relationship between Saudi Crown Prince and U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor, Jared Kushner. Earlier this week, the Trump administration imposed penalties on 17 individuals over their alleged roles in Khashoggi's killing. Sahara Asaf, HKIBC.
A U.S. federal judge ordered the Trump administration to restore the press credentials of CNN White House correspondent Jim Acosta. After picking up his press pass at White House today, Acosta said all he wants to do is go back to work.
I just want to say that I'm very grateful for what happened today and grateful for my colleagues in the press who stood by us through all of this. This was a test, and I think we passed the test. Journalists need to know that in this country, their First Amendment rights, freedom of the press, are sacred. They're protected in our Constitution. And, throughout all of this, I was confident, and I felt that this would be the result at the end of the day, that our rights would be protected to continue to cover our government and hold our leaders accountable. And beyond that, on that note, that's my cue to go back to work.
The death toll from the deadliest wildfire in California's history in at least a century has soared to 71. More than 1,000 people are now reported missing, a sharp rise from 600 or so the previous day, although authorities warned the figure could include duplications. More from Sahara Saf.
The number of people reported missing in the deadly California wildfire, which has destroyed thousands of homes, has soared overnight.
The current list of unaccounted for individuals stands at 1,011, which is an increase from yesterday of 380. I want you to understand, though, that this is a dynamic list. It will fluctuate both up and down every day.
The death toll was also rising.
I again have the very unfortunate duty to report to you that an additional 8 human remains were recovered during our search efforts today.
The blaze known as the Camp Fire has charred the town of Paradise, burned at least 9,700 homes to the ground, and displaced thousands of people. It is among the deadliest U.S. wildfires since the turn of the century. Helicopters have taken center stage in battling the devastating flames. A Black Hawk helicopter from the California National Guard was sent to tackle active wildfires raging across the U.S. state. Aerial video released showed crew members filling buckets with water. The helicopter doused water over burning foothills and trees as plumes of smoke filled the sky. Officials said almost half of the campfire covering northern California has been contained. But they also warned the inferno might not be fully contained until the end of the month. The campfire is just one of the 4 fires burning through California. Firefighters are also battling the Morgan Fire near San Francisco, the Woolsey Fire in Ventura County in Los Angeles, as well as the nearby Hill Fire. Sahara Saf, HKIBC.
In the NBA, Jimmy Butler celebrated his home debut with the Philadelphia 76ers with a win over the Utah Jazz. Raymond Young reports.
A much-anticipated home debut for Jimmy Butler as the Philadelphia Sixers took on the Utah Jazz. But it was second-year star Donovan Mitchell who stole the show early. The tight score carried into the second half as 2 easy points for Ben Simmons put Philly up by 4. But Joe Ingles kept the Jazz close with 14 points, including 2 baskets from behind the arc. Dante Exum then took it all the way to the hoop, as Utah kept coming back every time the Sixers built a lead. Butler then showcased his strength as he sank the floater and drew the foul. And he'll go to the line. The fourth quarter descended into a duel between Butler and Mitchell, who had 31 points on the evening. Rudy Gobert then threw down an alley-oop, and suddenly the Jazz seemed to be in the driving seat. But the Sixers' latest acquisition stepped up when they needed him the most. Joel Embiid then worked his magic from inside, together with some of his signature trash talking. And now he'll get one more at the line. The seesaw battle continued into the final minutes as both sides kept trading baskets. In the end, the Sixers used an 8-0 run to put the Jazz away as they improved to 10-7 on the season. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
All right, well, on to the weather now. It will be mainly cloudy with a couple of rain patches. Temperatures will range between 23 and 25 degrees. It will be slightly cooler on Monday with a few rain patches later in the week. But now, let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's all the news for now. Thanks for watching HKIBC. I'm Isabel Wong. Good night.